Well, hello again, good to see you. Last time I had a rather long video about the ANZ ratings and the Analyser spreadsheet and the ANZ bot as well, and how those can all work together to harness some stats and get you some better selection criteria to maybe make a bit more of a concentrated profit on Australia and New Zealand horse and harness racing. I did want to go into the spreadsheet, the Analyser spreadsheet, a little bit more, specifically some information on how to sanitize the data before you import it. And also there's been a few interesting comments and questions about using it to have more specific strategies. You know, a common suggestion was maybe just Saturday metropolitan racing. So that's certainly something to look at as well. And also the Analyser spreadsheet can be used to look at data before the day's races have started. So if you wanted to bet manually on some horses, or you just wanted to feed specific selections into a bot, you can do that as well. So I'll show you how to do that. Now, the process for all of this, I was originally going to do this as one video. It's turned out a bit too long for that, so I'm actually going to do this as a 3-video series. So if you if you're looking for a particular thing, have a look in the description below. You'll find links to the ANZ Analyser, the ANZ ratings and the bot, but you'll also find links to the other 2 videos. So if you're looking for something that's not specifically covered in this video, it'll be in one of those other 2 videos. That said, things in this first video are relevant if you're doing things in the other videos, so you might want to sit through this video at least, even if you want to look at something in the other videos. So firstly, sanitizing the data that you're pulling in to do analysis. And I'm stuttering a little bit. It's funny, it's not actually cold. Well, it is a little cold. This is the cold side of the house, hence the reason I'm rugged up. But I'm actually quite warm, so I'm not stuttering because I'm cold. Just struggling to think of the sentence that I want. But we'll have a look at analysing the data for analysis in the spreadsheet and how to sanitize that before you import it, so that the data you're pulling in isn't full of scratchings and other horses that didn't run skewing your data. Alrighty then, so I've got the folder where I've got the spreadsheet, the ANZ Ratings Analyser spreadsheet in front of us here. I've got data in there at the moment going back as far as February. So you can see it becomes quite large, 48 megabytes. It's a lot of data, so it does take a few moments to open when you do open it. So you may just want to give it a little bit of patience if you've imported a lot of old data. So I'll just open that now and you'll see what I mean. It doesn't take too long, but yeah, sometimes when there is that much data in there, and we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of races, it can just slow down just a little bit. And sometimes when it goes to analyze some of the data, if you make changes to a strategy or you want to update a graph or something, it does take a few extra moments. So just be aware of that. If you are pulling in a lot of data, you might need to just be slightly patient with it from time to time. That said, I think it's worth the few seconds that you have to wait. In fact, there you go. It's finished loading, so that's all good there. And if I just go over to the main tab here, again, it might take just a few moments, but there you go. It's not too long. It's just worth noting that it can take a few moments. And actually, I have to say, I actually kind of like it when it slows down a little bit. Because I'll just show you what I mean. If I type here that, hit the button, and it just takes a few moments, it actually reminds me a little bit of some old DOS database software that I used a long time ago, where you would type something and hit enter, and then you'd get a little screen that was waiting, loading, loading, dot 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 dot, loading, loading, and then it would come up like that. So it actually reminds me of that. It brings a little bit of nostalgia to me. That to one side. The actual reason I'm in here is this bit of information right here. And I find this very useful. I'll show you why a little bit later, but I find this very useful. It helps me to keep track of what I've imported. The spreadsheet will show you what the file is that you last imported. Even if you've closed the spreadsheet and reopened it since, the file that you last imported. So I can see here, I last imported data up to the 10th of June. We're up to the 23rd of June, so I'm a little bit behind actually on importing data, but that's good because what I generally do is import data in bulk. Now, you can see here, if we look at June, I've got these spreadsheets for June. I've actually got a couple of spreadsheets that were just individual races where I was just looking at something in particular, but these, the first 10 days. Now, I'm not importing those into the analyzer one by one. I'm actually merging them into the spreadsheet here. You can see I've got this one here. It covered the first 10 days of June. If I just show you May, you'll see something similar here. I've got the month split into 3 spreadsheets. All of the individual days downloads are still here, but the merged data is here. The reason I'm doing that is that it is much easier to deal with the process of sanitizing the data if you're doing it in bulk rather than doing it day by day. It's also easier to re-import it later if you need to re-import data for any reason. It's much easier to import 3 files for that month rather than 31 of them. It's much quicker, much less clicking, much less waiting. So I do find that to be quite useful. So we'll go through this process first of actually grabbing the data and sanitizing it for, we'll do 10 days here, so we'll do the 11th through to the 20th of June. This process is relevant to whether you're doing a bulk import of a heap of historical data, or even if you're just doing particular days or particular meetings. This process is relevant regardless of what you're doing. So we'll do this first, and then we'll move on to other things. So if I go to the ANZ Analyser website, you can see we're looking at the 23rd of June here. We've got all the meetings for the 23rd. That's great. I'm not overly interested in that right now. I did actually download the 23rd of June data earlier before the races for the day started. And I'll show you that later on when we get to the point of looking at how you could find selections for the day ahead of time. Let's go back to the 11th of June, and we'll see all the races have changed on the side here. We're looking at the 11th of June now. We'll go down to the bottom, click on meetings for the 11th. And there we go, all the meeting data for the 11th is loading. Now it takes a few moments for this to load. You can see it's slowly populating down the side. I generally go on the basis of, for me at least, once that little side navigation bar disappears, that's a good indication that it's probably done. It's worth maybe just having a scroll down to see some of these that don't have prices or data. Just give them a few moments, make sure that they have stopped updating. And if you don't get any updating for a little while, maybe 10-20 seconds, then I'd say you're done. It does take a little while to pull in all of the data. And even then, there's a few little bits and pieces here that might be missing, where for whatever reason there wasn't data saved for that. Now, that could be because this horse, maybe it was actually a non-runner, it just didn't get marked as a non-runner. Maybe the fact there's no prices there tells me it probably was a non-runner, but regardless, we will deal with sanitizing that data later. The reason you'd want to sanitize this data, for example, these 2 non-runners, this one here that's blank in terms of prices, the analyzer spreadsheet will see these as losses. Now, for some reason, these non-runners actually come through as losses in the download spreadsheet. So we'll clear those out later. But because they come through as losses, they can skew your data. Now, if you're looking at a backing strategy, it'll make the strategy look like it's performing worse. If you're looking at a laying strategy, it'll make it look like it's performing better. Either way, we don't want that there. These, because there's no prices, are probably not going to do much damage. But these here, where there is a price and no result listed, that if one of those was in fact the winner, well, it's going to be marked as a loss, and that's a problem for us. So we will sanitize that data. But first, we actually need to download the data. So hit the export data button at the top left here, and then we will, once it finishes grabbing the Excel file, we will save that. So yeah, we're putting that into the June folder. I don't actually, sorry, historic data folder. How you organise the folders is up to you. I like to keep it fairly well organised so I can easily find things again later. And then we go through that process again for each of those 10 days, the 11th through to the 20th. So I'm going to go through and do that. I won't make you sit through me blabbing away at you while we do this, so I'm just going to shoot through this. We'll speed up the video so that you don't have to wait too long. Alrighty, so we've got all of those files in here now. So you can see we've got the 11th through the 20th. So I'm going to go and open up the 11th. And of course Excel already has the Analyser spreadsheet open, which is fine, probably. Yep, there we go. So here's all the data from the 11th. You can see a lot more than what we saw on the website, which is useful. Plenty of data in there. So what I'm going to do next is open up the 12th. Right, so we've got the 12th, so I'm going to copy everything from the 12th and go back to the 11th. And I'm just going to go down to the bottom of the data in the 11th. I'm going to paste in the data from the 12th. And I'm going to get rid of this header line. So I can see all the 12th is just pasted in here. I'm going to get rid of this header line here. We've got a header line up the top. We only need it in there once. We don't need it again. So we'll just get rid of that. Now I'll go down to the go back to here. We'll open the 13th. And yeah, same process. So I'm just going to go through and copy everything from the 13th into the, that's not where I want it to be, the 11th. There we go. So the file from the 11th, that's the one I want. So I'll just copy that in there, and again, get rid of the header row. So I'm going to go through and do that for the rest of the days, 14th, 15th, etc. Alright, so there we are. We've got all of the data in for that period of time, from the 11th to the 20th. So I'm going to save this spreadsheet as it's not quite right. There we go. So save that with a file name telling me it's data from the 11th through to the 20th of June. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is filter, well, it's actually I'm not going to filter this, I'm going to sort this based on primarily on the back odds and the lay odds. Generally speaking, if what I want to do here is get rid of non-runners, so scratchings, abandoned races, that sort of thing, and any meetings which happen to be in here which were non-Betfair meetings, because there won't be data for those here. Generally, they will be lacking either back odds or lay odds or both. In most cases, not always, but in most cases. Late scratchings and abandoned races can be a bit of an anomaly in there, but we'll cover how to deal with that. So if we go to the Data tab and we sort, I'm going to sort first by back odds, then by lay odds. I'm then going to sort by date and by track. I'm going to sort by saddle number as well. Now there's a reason for this. For the first step of this, these last few aren't strictly speaking necessary, but by having them in there, it makes it a little bit easier later, because I only need to remove the ones I don't need later on for the next stages of this. But I'll just put them in there. It just makes things just a little bit easier later on. So we'll hit OK on that. Sort anything that looks like a number as a number. You might get asked that a few times. And here we are, our back odds and our lay odds. So anything here that's just zeros across the board, I'm just going to get rid of, because it's either it's most likely a scratching or an abandoned race. Or in some cases, if Betfair had a maintenance window, it will be that'll probably happen during the maintenance window as well. Now the benefit of having this sorted by date to an extent as well, as you can see down the left side here as we go through these, I can see that I'm working down the runners that have these zero prices by date order. So when I get closer to the 20th, I'll know that I'm pretty much there. I can speed up the scroll a little bit, but there's quite a few here, but this isn't particularly unusual. It's actually a fairly standard number over those 10 days of horses that were listed but ended up not running, or results weren't recorded for some reason. A fairly typical number, really. It seems like a lot, but it's actually not. Since the 19th, the 20th, at the moment will be for that. Nearly there. There we go. So that's the end of those there. And I'm going to get rid of those. Just completely get rid of them. So just right click there and I'll just choose delete when the menu appears. It's not usually as slow as this, but I have noticed when I'm doing screen recordings that it does slow the system down a little bit, so that's probably not helping matters. We'll try right clicking that again. There we go. Delete, away they go. Perfect. Right. So then we're going to sort again, but I don't need it to sort by back odds or lay odds. Okay, so now we're sorted by date, by meeting, and by saddle number. Now the track, incidentally, is the meeting and the race number, so you're actually getting these races in order. And then we've got each race sorted by saddle number. What I want to do now is do another search for anything here in the winner column that has a dash result, so it's listing it as having not a result. So we go find, We're just going to search for the dash symbol. We want to search by columns. That way we're searching down this column and not across. We just want to search down this column. So find next. Alright, so this is the sort of thing we're looking for here. Is in this case we've got, just expand this out just a little bit, Bathurst Race 1. I'll just maybe pull this one in a bit and pull this column in a bit, just make it a little bit easier to see. So we've got this here at Bathurst. In fact, we've got a whole heap of races at Bathurst here on the 11th where there's nothing. In fact, that entire meeting, it looks like that entire meeting may have been abandoned. Now, it has odds listed in the back odds and lay odds columns because there were prices for those at some stage before the meeting was abandoned. Now that meeting is, I could pretty much just go through and delete the whole meeting without an issue, but I like to just double check this. So I use two sites usually for this. So racenet.com.au generally has a good listing of Australian and New Zealand horse racing results. We're looking at the 11th. We'll go back to the 11th. The results. And there we go. Bathurst, the entire meeting was abandoned. Simple. I also use the harness.org.au website, the Harness Racing Australia website, and their meeting calendar. Now I don't get a nice grid view like I do off RaceNet. That grid view is very quick. I can just see at a glance, yeah, those were abandoned. Great. But I can see all of the meetings here at a glance, and if I need to, I can just click on one of them and see, well, was a race abandoned or not. So we're going to get rid of that entire meeting from Bathurst because everything there was abandoned. So there's no point having that in there. Okay, get rid of that. And then we'll continue our search. Dash by columns, find next. And that's it. That's it. That's it. You can see we've now actually moved over to a different column because we've finished finding things in that in column V that actually have the dash in them. So that's it. Simple as that. We've managed to get rid of all of the scratchings when we got rid of all of the zero price horses, and we got rid of the remaining abandoned meeting by just getting rid of that one dash meeting. So that's as simple as that. So I'll save that there. Now I'll just close that one out. And we can go back over here to the ANZ Analyser spreadsheet and we can import that data. So we'll do that. Import new data. I had it in my historic data folder. And it's this file here, the 11th through the 20th. And give it a few moments. And it'll tell us that there's 7,909 new records. So we will import those. And that'll take a few moments, but once it's in there, that will be good. And yeah, it does take a few moments, but that's fine. You expect that. There's a lot of data for it to import, and then once it imports it, it goes and updates the spreadsheet on the screen here. I think it actually does go back to strategy number 1, and it has a little think about that and updates that. And then it will tell you in a moment. There you go, successful update, 7,909 new records. Now, that's done to strategy 1, which is not one of mine, it just came with the spreadsheet. You can see it's updated that. It's got a little bit of data through to the 20th of June. I'll just go back to one of my strategies, so strategy 16. Maiden's first up with a jockey-trainer combo that's have done very well at that particular track. And yeah, that pretty much matches what I saw over that period. It had a little bit of a lean period there, but overall it's performing well. So that is so that's that bit done. Now, it's worth noting you don't have to wait the full 10 days. If you're doing this in 10-day blocks, you don't have to wait the full 10 days to import that. If I say did this on the 14th, so I had 4 days worth of data, and then later on I added in a few more days into this, I can re-import that file with the updated data. The Analyzer spreadsheet will see that there's new data in there to add. The lines that haven't changed, it will just ignore. The lines that are updated, changed, new, it'll deal with those. This, however, is why it's not a good idea to use your historical data spreadsheet to find selections for the new day, because we had to pull out all of those runners that were scratchings, zero prices, abandoned meetings, etc. The import process in the Analyzer spreadsheet is looking for new data. If you, for example, had data that you've imported from, say, the 11th to the 14th, and you've had a whole heap of scratchings on the 13th, but you've previously imported data for the 13th before the races started. Unfortunately, when you've deleted those non-runners out of your bulk spreadsheet, because those lines don't exist in your bulk spreadsheet anymore, they're not going to remove the data from the Analyzer spreadsheet. So I would suggest it's best to use a separate copy of the Analyzer spreadsheet if you're trying to find selections for the day ahead. We will come back to that because I will show you how to do that later. Alrighty, so that's the sanitizing the data so you can use it for analyzing historic data. In the next video, and there's a link below, we'll have a look at how to be more targeted about the data that you're using and how to cut it down to specific days and tracks. In particular, we'll look at Saturday Metro.